Hello, Black Women Amplified family. It's your girl, Monica Wisdom. How are you doing today? I am so excited that you're here with us, and I can't wait to get into this conversation. First of all, are y'all up on the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef? These hip hop beefs are funny to me. I'm Generation X, and so our beefs were a bit different. They weren't so, I don't know. But Kendrick Lamar put out Euphoria. It's genius. I'm such a Kendrick Lamar fan. I'm not normally a fan of the current hip hop, but I'm a huge fan of Kendrick Lamar. I think he is brilliant, and there's a reason that he won a Pulitzer Prize. His response to Drake was stellar, and I think that I think that I hope this is the end of it. I really do. I really hope it's the end of it. Super personal, but it's fascinating to watch. I don't know much about Drake at all, but yeah, Kendrick wasn't too happy. uh, well, he clearly said what he had to say. He said what he had to say. Anyway, today we're talking about prioritizing ourselves. So we're pulling up on the end of season 3 for the Black Women Amplified podcast. I have one more interview and I have a wrap up podcast happening. And then I will start formulating season 4. I have, I'm still plotting and planning on what I'm going to do, what season 4 is going to look like. I don't really have anything specific in mind. I know I want to continue the conversation of storytelling, continue the conversation of um, self care, prioritizing yourself. And I really want to take the time to build out this YouTube channel. So if you're watching me on Facebook, I'm over on YouTube. So if you're a YouTube watcher, come on over to Black Women Amplified and subscribe to the channel. It is growing. I've been coming on live more often. And Facebook is getting really wonky about third-party apps. So I don't know if this is showing on Facebook or not. But if you're on Facebook, I guess put up some hearts so that I can see them and I know that you're there. But if you're on the YouTube, hello and welcome. So I am Monica Wisdom, the founder and creator of Black Women Amplified, the platform and the podcast. And if you have not listened to the podcast episodes, I invite you to listen to the conversations with some incredible women from Chapel Hart to Reese Palmer, Liv Warfield, Tracy Moore, who is a celebrity casting director who discovered Dave Chappelle and Kerry Washington and several other people. And they're just very inspiring conversations. We talk about their story, their journey, their challenges, and their triumphs. And they're very honest and very vulnerable. So they're great conversations. So if you're a podcast lover, go to Black Women Amplified on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. And subscribe here, as well as like the content and share it with a friend if you feel so inclined. But what we're going to talk about, I was watching a YouTube, there's a person, she's not a YouTuber, she's a venture capitalist, and she has a fund for marginalized businesses, about $30 million. People, from all over, from angel investors to big time business billionaires have invested in her fund so that she can be the middle person to get the money out to businesses that are starting up or need just capital to run, as we all do. When you're business owners, you want to have some money. But what she was talking about was what happens what happens when women of color are centered in the narrative. So when they put women of color, everything we know now is basically white male centered, American white male centered, or wherever you are in the world. It's typically a white man in leadership, a white man with the money, And so everything is put out in the world from their perspectives, their likes and their dislikes. So most of what we see in society is based off of the people in power, what their likes and their dislikes are. And that's just the simplest way to put it. So the question they were posing, child, hydrating myself. It's allergy season, and I know if I keep myself hydrated, it's not quite as hard. But so so everything, and what does it mean to center somebody? It means that that person becomes the sun, and everything around it depends on that sun. So what she's talking about is, what does it look like when we switch out who the sun is, and the sun becomes women of color. Now, before we get into this conversation, I want to be clear. I am not a fan of the term women of color. I think it's intellectually lazy. And here's why I say that. It's intellectually lazy because what happens is you put everybody into this one pile, and you have everybody else who's not like that over here, which means white people. So you put Indian, Asian, Latino, Indigenous, Black, Brown, Latin, Southeast Asian, everybody who's not white goes over into this one bucket. And what happens is we all are vying for our own space within that bucket, and it causes conflict. It causes all of these wars that people are having of, UK doesn't like the US and all these different things, because people are not feeling seen when you pile everybody into one box that says person of color, woman of color, man of color, people of color. So I'm a fan of, call it what it is. I'm a Black American woman, born and raised in America. My family I've counted back 10 generations. So we've been here longer than the United States of America itself. So I know that my lineage and my heritage goes across many waters. I have British people in my lineage. I have Irish people in my lineage, but I center my lineage of Africa. So I'm a Black American woman. And here's why I say that. It's important to know my journey, but it's also important to know someone from the Caribbean, an immigrant journey. So if you clump myself and a Jamaican woman and a Bahamian woman and a Cuban woman, who we all may look just alike. We all may look just alike. We might have all been come from the same slave ship, right? But landed in different pockets. We might have been a part of the first wave or the second wave. People don't understand that there were two waves. There's the transatlantic slave trade, and then there's the triangle slave trade, as I'm calling it. And the triangle slave trade is when the transatlantic became illegal. So then they were taking people from the Americas and taking them to Brazil, South America, and to the Caribbean, because the slave trade was really strong. And remember, before the United States became the United States, there was 150 years. Well, I can't remember the amount of years, but there was a colony, and the colonies went from the Americas all the way down to the Caribbean before the United States won the Revolutionary War and won its freedom from Great Britain. From the queen, honey. So that is what the musical Hamilton is all about. So if you don't like reading the books about it, go watch Hamilton and you'll see the whole story about how the United States became the United States. So I like to say, it's important. This is why I don't use that term. And when I don't say women of color amplified, people of color amplified, I say Black women amplified, because this is a conversation by and about Black women, and from our perspective and our point of view, not just mine, but other Black women. Now, I also have other Black women who are part of the diaspora having this conversation, but I'm clear that they are Afro-Latina. or they're Jamaican, or they're from Belize. And I'm clear and I want us to hear their stories, because the idea is that everybody gets seen and gets heard. And what happens when we use that umbrella term? I don't have the same journey, and I've talked about this on the podcast. I don't have the same journey as a woman, an immigrant woman from Vietnam. Whole different life experience. But this is why I call it intellectually lazy. Because if you just umbrella everybody, then I don't have to hear the individual stories. And I don't have to see the DNA of a person. I don't have to see the unique attributes of a person or their experiences. And we may have shared experiences, but at the end of the day, we're individuals. So that's on that. But the idea, let's get back to the original topic, the idea of centering somebody is to say that who is the son of this story, right? If you're talking about a fable or a fairy tale or just a life journey, we live in a society that centers white men. So everything is by and for them. And then we have to kind of figure out how to navigate how to orbit around them as the sun. But when you switch it to centering somebody else, a woman of color, Black woman, brown woman, Asian woman, then they become the center and everybody navigates around them. And so what happens is, because of our life experiences being different, and I'm going to use the example of Black women. I could be using the example of any woman, but from any part of the world, any lineage, any heritage, or any culture. But I'm going to speak for my heritage, my lineage, and my culture. So if we are to center Black women, specifically American Black women, we have a very unique vantage point because of the journey that we have had in this nation, that we have had before the United States became the United States, and the experiences that we're having now. So the experiences that we're having now are because of the enslavement of African people. And we have grown up and out from that, and have fought for civil rights for all people, have done many, many things, invented many, many things. And it doesn't exclude any other group of people. But for the example of this conversation, I'm going to say Black women. Because we know all types of people created this country. But specifically enslaved people built this country for free. So because of that, Black women have a specific vantage point. We have an understanding of other groups of people like no other group of women in this nation. And because of that, and because of how we are as Black women, we don't exclude people. If somebody comes to your house, you get a plate. We're going to feed you. We're going to take care of you. We're going to nurture you. We're going to be real direct. We're going to see you for who you are, but we're going to love you anyway. So Black women have a community mindset. We're not an individualized type of person. We're not a person who, typically, we're not people who are just for ourselves. We make sure that we're okay. Well, we make sure that everybody's okay. Now, that's the conversation they were having, how things would shift if we centered people who made sure that everybody was okay, as opposed to centering people who only care about their own needs, wants, and desires. Specifically, everybody who's not a white man. So I'm saying, so my point of the conversation is, what would happen if we centered ourselves in our own lives? What if we made ourselves a first priority? What would our life be like? Because at the end of the day, even if society centered us, it would still be to the benefit of everybody else. And as you know, we as Black women put ourselves at the back of the line, right? We make sure that everybody gets what they need, everybody's taken care of, everybody's okay. And then we lay down and say, "Ooh, I'm tired," but I felt good. We're so raised to believe that serving others is our purpose. And I'm going to have a whole nother conversation about purpose in another video. I've talked about it on the podcast. I don't know if I have put it on the YouTube, but it's on the podcast because I have a whole different perspective about purpose. And I talked about it a couple of years ago. I've talked about it a couple of times. But what would happen if we as Black women said, I'm going to center myself. I'm not going to worry about society. I'm not going to worry about social media. I'm not going to worry about these kids because they're going to, if I eat, they're going to eat. That's just a given. I'm not going to put any effort in helping other people understand me. I'm not going to put any effort in fighting for what I know, for who I know that I am. I'm just going to show up in my power. And I'm going to let you know what my like we talked about in the last video, I'm going to let you know what my standards and my boundaries are. And if you cross them, there's going to be a problem. But if you don't, there's no problem. And how would that feel? What would happen if you centered yourself? What would happen if you said, what was the old song we used to listen to? I'm just a squirrel trying to get, it was what was it? An Orange Juice Jones song. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut. What if we said that, hey, I'm going to put myself first. I'm going to prioritize my needs and I'm going to build my dreams. Because who has taken the time and energy and efforts to help other people build their dreams? And you get a thank you. You're tired, you're exhausted, you're out of all the things. I know I have. I know that I can name one person in specific who had a dream and I bought into that dream and he bought me into that dream. It wasn't a romantic thing. It wasn't a romantic thing. And somebody I loved and was very close to and was like, "Oh, this is amazing. We can do this. Oh, this is great." And everything was we. But at the end of the day, the only one that was getting a paycheck was him. And at the end of the day, at the end of it was many years, I want to say almost a decade. And I did all of this work. I put in all this energy and I helped him build a global business. And it was just out of the love of me wanting to support him. Child. At the end of the day, our parting of the ways was not pretty. It took us 2 years to start talking again. And at the end of the day, he made a lot of money off of his work, of course, his work and his efforts, but mine too. And he didn't see the value in paying me, and I didn't see the value of it either. And so when people ask me to help them now, I'm like, what's your budget? Period. What is your budget? Because I don't think it's fair that people benefit from my brain trust and not value it. So I have to value it for myself. I have to put myself first, make myself a priority, and work on building my dreams, which is what I'm doing here on the YouTube. And what happens is things shift and change when you're not giving to everybody else. And I'll be honest, for a while, it gets really lonely. When you start telling people no, it gets really lonely. But it gets really clear on why people have you in their life. And when you get clear with yourself, and like I will always talk about, the most powerful thing you can do for yourself is go on a self-discovery journey. I did it. I've done it a couple of times. My last one was probably about 1.5 years ago, and I went through it for about a year. And what happens in a self-discovery journey is you get to know yourself really, really well. And I even created a journal called Self-Love Amplified. There's a you can tap into it somewhere on this page. There's a way to order it, but it's called Self-Love Amplified, and it's a journal, a prompted journal of questions, and these questions will guide you through a process of self-discovery. And it begins with asking you some really poignant questions. And if you take the time to answer them, by the time you get to the end of the book, where you talk about your dreams and your hopes and your future, you will have a clear understanding of who you are, what you contribute to the world, and how to say no and why you should say no. So it's a powerful book and also has beautiful photographs that you can color in case you need a break from all the intensity. There's butterflies and women meditating. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. And there's all you can tap into it, like I said, on this page. But anyway, what happens when we prioritize ourselves, when we put ourselves first, and when we say to the world, I matter? And you look in the mirror and say, I matter, and I'm worthy of reclaiming my time and prioritizing myself. You will have feelings of worthiness. You will feel valued. You will feel rested because you're not overextending yourself. You won't feel the overwhelm because you're not spread so thin that you don't have time for yourself. You feel loved because you will genuinely know that people are in your space because of you, not because of what you can do for them, but because of you. And then you will feel so appreciated when people just want to be with you, just to be in your presence. Because we're all worthy to have a space where presence is appreciated just because we're breathing. Not what can I get out of you? What can you do for me? Not from a place of, I call it toddlerism. You know how toddlers are. I want, I want, I want, I want. And people can be that same way with our time and our energy. But one thing I love about my best friend is we can just literally sit down and do nothing. We can do all the things, or we can do absolutely nothing. Order some food, put on a movie, and laugh and just be in each other's presence. Those are some of my best relationships, when I can just be in a person's presence and we're not focused on anything. We're not trying to build, we're not trying to network. We're just being. And even just with myself, I'm not times when I'm like, okay, I need to power down. I don't need to work on a project. I don't need to work on this. I don't need to work on that. I just need to be. Right. What did I do this? I had last week, I had those moments, and one of my shows that I used to watch was called Nashville. And sometimes I can get really, like numb about things it's like when things are too much and things are overwhelming. I can just, like, how a computer will just stop, and you have to reset it. You have to restart it, then you have to fill out all the passwords and put everything back in order. And so typically I find when I do that, I just need to chill out and just chill out, because my brain is in overload and it gets in shutdown mode where I can't even think properly. And so and I learned this in my self-discovery journey, that when that happens, that means it's time for me to power down so that I can mentally recalibrate. And so I was watching a TV show called Nashville, and I used to watch it on and off. And it's about Nashville. It's about the music industry. And I love watching stuff about the music industry because I worked in it for like 10 years with different companies and different people, like the Isley Brothers and DreamWorks Records and Atlantic Records, and just different projects. Also, as a freelance artist, as a hairstylist, I was able to work with Leela Rashan and I've worked with Cheryl Lee Ralph. I've worked with, I don't remember now, Loretta Devine, just different people, independent artists. So anyway, I love the music industry. It's one of my favorite places outside of the craziness. Outside of the craziness. But musicians and artists, like, those are my people. And so I watched the show Nashville, and I tell you what, it took me through so many emotions. It was like going through therapy. It was literally like we're going through therapy. It was loss and love and all just all the things, all the emotions, and it was really cathartic. And so it brought me back to a place of joy because sometimes you have to, facilitate your emotions through watching something else, like a movie. Oftentimes if I feel really, really down, I'll go put on a comedy. And always my favorite is Eddie Murphy. The Eddie Murphy is my go-to for everything. So I'm either going to watch The Nutty Professor or I'm going to watch Dolomite because those movies just crack me up. And then some of his other movies are funny, but those are my favorites. The first Nutty Professor, not the second one. And Dolomite, I've watched, I think, 1,000 times just because I think it's brilliant. And he put out a Christmas movie with Tracy Ellis Ross. That was funny too. I like watching that as well. I've only watched that once, but I will put that. It will definitely be something I watch every Christmas because I love Eddie Murphy. Anyway, he's my favorite comedian. Favorite. I know people like Dave Chappelle or whoever, but for me, it's Eddie Murphy because Eddie Murphy can give a look and just have me pass out laughing. He's just so funny. He's brilliant. And he's a person. He's an Aries like me, and Eddie Murphy will disappear. And when it's time for him to show up, he shows up and then he disappears again. And people are like, "What have you been doing?" He's like sitting in my house watching TV. He lives a very uncomplicated life. And I love that. He's not trying to be over here and be over there. He just lives a very uncomplicated life. He has 10 kids. He likes his kids at the house. He just lives a very simple life. But when it's time for him to work, he goes to work and then he goes back home. I love that about him. And just lives great experiences. So what happens when we prioritize ourselves and put our dreams first and our ideas first, and we make all this space, right? We make all this space for us to dream and tap into our imagination because we're not hustling and grinding and going after this and going after that and ending up in disappointment and frustration and anger and not feeling acknowledged and not feeling seen. We get to see ourselves and to play in this world in a whole new way. I mean, what if we said, you know what? I'm going to take all this energy that I'm giving everybody else and I'm going to reclaim my time and I'm going to give this energy to myself. And I'm going to say, self, what can we create? And here's my new thing. Oh my gosh. So I've been thinking a lot about manifesting. And I was telling my friend this story about the day of the eclipse. The eclipse happened. Everybody was like, "Oh, you got to go see the eclipse. It's going to be this big, huge spiritual thing." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I'll go see it." But let me tell you what, I had that experience. I don't know what everybody else had, but what downloaded to me, and I will tell you, God downloads, he downloads. So what downloaded was when it comes to manifesting, and this is my experience, I'm only speaking for myself, but when it comes to manifesting, my perspective was it was like a menu of everything I wanted God and the universe to give me. I want this, I want this, I want this. So I made a checklist, right? But what came to me was manifesting is not about the checklist. Manifesting is not about what you are here to get. Stick with me. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, join this journey. Life is not about what to give, what we get. And it just shifted my whole mindset. It said, the voice clearly said, because when God speaks to me, it's really clear. The voice clearly said, your life is not about what you give, your life is about what you contribute. And here's why that was so profound. Here's why that was so profound. Hear my creaky desk. Child, I bought this desk. It was so cheap, and it looks like wood, but it's not. But it's so cheap. It's just so cheap. But I like it. It's I like it, but it's not the grand desk that I aspire to have one day. But it's creaky. So anyway, what life is here to contribute? Because I was thinking about what shifted in my life. I've had a lot of life shifts. And I was like, what shifted in my life that is making things, it feels like everything is like clogged up. Like things are almost happening or things, and my life used to be one of those lives that it just flowed. Everything just flowed. And I said, what shifted? What shifted was my mindset, right? And I became focused on making money. Became focused on the little minutia things of life, whereas I used to just like be out there doing all the things. Um, and I know when it shifted because I do self discovery. I know what shifted. I know when, not looking back on it, I know when it shifted, and it's all tangled up in trauma and trauma around the time where my brother passed away and life shifted, and I was trying to get back to the old way of life. And I had to come to the realization that life will never be like it was, that I needed to create something new and different. But I didn't know how to do it. So when that download came to me the day of the eclipse in March, it was like, oh, life is about what we contribute. And here's why that's a big deal. Because when we focus on what we want, let's say you want a new purse, right? If you want a new purse and you just focus on, I want this purse, I want this purse, I want this purse. The purse is such a small idea. It's such a small idea. It's like going into the Gucci store and saying I want a key. And when somebody says you can have whatever you want in this whole Gucci store, and you're like, oh, I'll just take a charm. You just take a charm. Yeah, I'll just take a charm. So everything that's here, you're just going to take a charm. Yeah, just take a charm. I don't want much, just something simple and modest. I don't want people I don't want to be concerned about what people think about me. I don't feel worthy of having everything in the store that I want. Like why do I need all of that? It's not cool and it's not right, and it's just like I'll just take a charm. Now you walked in the store, everybody said you can have whatever you want, all of what you want. You have the whole store. You can take everything in the store out if you want to, and you just take a charm. That is what happens when we manifest and we ask for an itemized list. But when you come from the perspective of what can I contribute to this store? What can I contribute to the world? It's like, oh, I walk in the store and what can I contribute? I can contribute to the world abundance. I can contribute to the world prosperity. I can contribute to the world luxury. I can contribute to the world living my best life. And it just makes it so much bigger. It's like, oh my God, if I could have everything in the store, I could just be like the Gucci girl and create a business from being the Gucci girl. Like there's so much, many more opportunities when we're not focused on an itemized list of for manifesting. I should have made this a whole separate video, but it is what it is. When I get my downloads from God, I just got to go with it. But That's what I mean about making space for yourself. And when I made space for myself, I was able to get that download from God because I wasn't worried about what other people needed. I wasn't worried about obligations that I had made to other people. I wasn't even making any obligations to other people because I needed time for myself. I needed time to recharge. And when that happened, I was able to open up for new possibilities in my own life. And that's what I mean about prioritizing yourself. Prioritizing yourself opens up new possibilities for your life. And you get to make yourself great again. And here's the thing, I know people are having a hard time right now. And that's why I'm coming on here and I'm talking to people because I know I've had a hard time. And it's not easy picking up the pieces when something happens. It's not easy to see a way out when you're in the middle of something that's causing you pain or heartache. When you don't have enough money in the bank, and when you're having to depend on other people, or you don't have anybody to depend on, and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to make it to the other side. Oftentimes, the other side is right in front of you, but you can't see it because so many distractions, so many other concerns are blocking what's right in front of you. And sometimes we just have to get still, get honest with ourselves, and make ourselves a priority and center ourselves so that we can see the next step for our lives. So I say all that to say, take the time for yourself, get to know yourself better. If you're like, Monica, what is a self-discovery journey? You can order the journal and take it on yourself, or you can book a session with me and I can take you through the process that I went through that worked for me and I've taught other people. I'm sorry, I'm drinking this tea and it's so good. It's Buddha tea and I love it. It's my favorite tea so far. But yeah, if you take the time to get to know yourself, take the time to prioritize yourself, and take the time to build your dream. And you'll be surprised. Life becomes this big old adventure. And it's not a hustle and grind adventure. You're living in the flow. You start living in that flow, and magic happens and miracles happen, and you get to know yourself in a whole new way so that joy becomes your default, not frustration, overwhelm, imposter syndrome, and all those things. Because you ain't got time. Having too much fun. All right, Black Women Amplified family, that is our chat for today. Make sure you check out the podcast and listen to the incredible stories of these incredible women. Don't forget that if you're ready to go on your self-discovery journey, if you need a place to have a conversation to navigate through life, my coaching services are available to you as well. You can go to www.monicawisdomhq.com, or you can go to blackwomenamplified.com and click the Work with Monica button, and it will take you over to my coaching page. And y'all, I built those pages myself, so I'm real proud of them. So just go see them, just to go see them. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter called Smart and Ambitious. And I will talk to you all soon. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can hear more conversations. They're not all going to be serious and intense, but I think it's important that Black women, we have a lot to talk about. We have so much to talk about. Like, there's literally a whole faction coming at us. There's a whole army coming at us. And it's fun to get caught up in these beefs and these situations and these reality shows. That's fun, and we need a break. Truly, we need a break. But it's time to have some conversations too, because we need to be prepared. Yeah. So anyway, sending you all love and light and joy and peace. And I pray that life is beautiful for you. And I will see you next time. Thank you for watching the Black Women Amplified Live. And make sure you like, subscribe, and visit blackwomenamplified.com. Sign up to our newsletter, check out our merchandise, and I'll see you next time. Take care.